Welcome to Immigrant Bazaar, a weekly podcast for immigrants by immigrants. And as usual, your hosts are myself, Bahram.
Anwar.
Great. And today we have a topic of pursuing higher education in the US. And for the topic, we have a very honorable guest. His name is Dr. Ferhat Ozturk. He's a professor. He had experience. He has a very long, deep experience, and he's going to give us a background. Currently, he's a professor of science teacher in the high school. So, Dr. Ferhat Ozturk, please give us a background about yourself, and we'll keep going after that. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm pleased to be your guest. So, as you mentioned, my name is Dr. Ferhat Ozturk, and I received my Bachelor's of Science in Biology from Fatih University in Istanbul, Turkey. And then I immediately came to the United States to pursue my Ph.D. in cellular and molecular biology at the University of Nevada, Reno. And then I moved to Nebraska at the University of Nebraska Medical Center and Creighton University. I did my postdoc studies, again, in this similar field, like bioinformatics and cell signaling. And eventually I returned to Turkey in 2013 as the founding chair of Molecular Biology and Genetics Department at Canik Başarı University in Samsun, Turkey. And I was also the director of Honey Research Center in Turkey, and I studied honey since 2013. And it's kind of became my passion to do the research in the field. And my background in molecular biology, genetics, and as well as cell biology really helped me to dive more into the honey research. And 2016, I came to the United States, and then I worked as an visiting assistant professor at biochemistry department of Alma College, Michigan. And in 2018, I moved to San Antonio, Texas. And currently, I'm a biomedical science teacher at School of Science and Technology in San Antonio. And then I also volunteer as a research scientist at University of Texas, San Antonio. And again, I don't want to give up my passion of honey research. So at UTSA, University of Texas, San Antonio, I do voluntary research about the biomedical activities of Texan honey. And at the school that I work, I teach PLTW program, Project Lead the Way, and I teach the biomedical science classes and human body systems and medical interventions, these kind of things.
Like I said, I said at the beginning of the show, you have a very impressive background. So, I mean, yeah, and Dr. Ozturk was very humble to be our guest for this episode because we were trying to make sure that, you know, we talk about different stuff. So far in this episode, we talked about business, we talked about profession, we talked about housing. So we want to talk about some academic for those immigrants who came here or who've been living here, who have academic passion in terms of getting their bachelor's and master's and PhD and postdoc. We wanted to make sure that we keep, you know, with a certain amount of time we have, of course, to give some information that can be helpful. So we are very happy to have you. And I'll probably start with the first question before Anwar takes on. So Dr. Ozturk, if you can give us some, maybe just some guidelines how in terms of getting, I know you said you did your bachelor's program in Turkey, of course, and then you moved here in the US. In terms of applying and getting accepted to a master's degree, and in this case, PhD, in your case, where I believe master's was combined with PhD, right? So in your case.
Yeah, I didn't go to master's. I just started the PhD program.
Yes, but like, oh, yeah. So, so tell us, like, how was the process for you? Is it easy, you know, from Turkey to get applying to PhD here and getting accepted? Was it long process? You know, did you have to go through many interviews or many essays? And how was the process in general?
Actually, the most important part of application and approval process or admission process is the reference letters. I mean, I saw the importance of reference letters a lot during my first application.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I applied 6 or 7 different universities while I was in Turkey, and I received my TOEFL, and I got a passing score. It's not too high. I received my GRE again. It wasn't too high, but my reference letters from United States, because I came to the United States 1 year before I graduated from the university. So I came in 2002 to Ruston, Louisiana at Louisiana Tech University. And then I worked with 2 professors, and both of them wrote reference letters for me. And I believe, I mean, when I came to my PhD, I asked the admission, professor, and I had the idea of my reference letters was the decisive point.
Okay.
Because I mean, they look for TOEFL, they look for GRE, you have to get the minimums.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to write a good statement of purpose. Yes, I wrote it as well as I can, I mean, as best as I can. But on the other hand, the references were very helpful. And I always recommend my colleagues or my friends who want to apply for higher degree education, such as master's or PhD, just volunteer in with a professor, or I mean, it can be assistant associate or full professor, but just volunteer with a person in
Okay.
that field so that you can get reference letter from that person to go into the field. And that person will tell about you how enthusiastic about pursuing academic career in the field.
Okay, so just like
Okay.
sorry, Amar, just like in any business, having a good networking is very important, I guess. That's what I'm
Definitely.
understanding, right? So I
Yes.
mean, you have a good background. Obviously, you were studying well. You might, like you said, you had a passing good TOEFL score. You had the GRE and all those things that you've done your homework at the same time. Having a good network, knowing people who can help you out in terms of writing reference letters. That's great. So thank you. I appreciate it.
And do not hesitate to write to people. I mean, to be honest, my whole journey started with like hitchhike. So because my university in Turkey, in Istanbul, was on top of a hill that not so many buses or minibuses come. So I was staying late in the university doing some lab research as an undergrad. So I was late, and then I hitchhiked one of the cars that was coming from the university, and it was the department chair of computer science. And he helped me to find a connection in the United States.
Okay.
And then, I mean, mine is biology, he was computer science. At the end, he found someone who can help. And then I wrote my first letter, first email that I would like to come to the United States. This is my background, how you can help me. So you just need to be, kind of entrepreneurship. So you need to
Yes.
take the steps. I mean, you need to do the first step and do not hesitate to write to the people. You write 100 emails, 10 of them comes back, one of them comes positive, that's it, you are in.
Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Ozturk, I actually want to clarify because the point that you made is you basically came to the States for an internship after your third year of bachelor's degree. Did I understand you
Yes,
correctly?
that is correct. During my junior year, before my senior year, so I came here as an internship for summer internship. And then I returned to Turkey, finished my undergraduate, but on my senior year, I applied for PhD programs. And I got full assistantship, full scholarship, and full tuition. Again, mostly based on my reference letters.
Yeah, that's a very interesting case. I would probably guess that there aren't that many international students at bachelor's level who come here for internships, right?
Yeah, that is very, very critical. I mean, you need
Yes.
to establish that background by physically coming here. And I recommend it to my students while I was in Turkey as well. Make sure that you guys go to the United States before you graduate, so you have a connection, you have a base that once you apply for PhD programs, you will know the people who will support you.
Yeah, but majority of our viewers are probably located in the States right now. So we targeting the audience of immigrants. The size of immigrants in the United States is approximately 40 million or so. So, suppose we have a first generation immigrant who is going to college right now, or the parent of such an immigrant. You would still encourage them to take internships in labs, or how do you build those connections with professors?
I mean, those connections can be either by taking a class from a professor, and if you like the class, and always look for the website of the professors, that if that study or if that idea is appealing for you, you should just go and talk to the professor. Because as an undergraduate student, you are a very good researcher for them. I mean, they don't have to pay a lot to you. You can go work study programs, and it is like a very advantageous both for the professor and the student, to work together, because you have the enthusiasm to contribute to the research, and the professor has the enthusiasm to hire you as an, as an active researcher, and then paying less for that one. So, I mean, I believe a lot of professors are approving the undergraduate students, even the high school students. I mean, nowadays I'm working on a project to put my high school students into the college before they graduate, so they can have an interaction with the college. So they will see the college environment, the structure, and then as well, they will learn about the research media. I mean, what the research requires, and then how can they do research when they start the college. So the earlier you start, the higher chances of getting approved later.
That's
interesting. I'm also guessing that if you get to work at a professor's lab as a high school kid, that probably helps you with your application to colleges for
Sure.
your bachelor's degree. That probably helps, yeah. So
I know a family, not a family member, but a very close friend of mine. His daughter, she started as soon as the summer before she started the college. She started for volunteering in the lab. Right now, she's earning a good amount of money because she's working in the lab, and as well, she's like a all A student because of her like enthusiasm in the research in the field. So she keeps learning, and also she's earning money from the lab that she's working.
That's really impressive, right? I mean, at that age, you already start earning money. At the same time, your passion is there. That you're already going into something that you kind of envision to be to be working down the road. So
That's true, and you have the chances in the undergraduate. You can switch professors. You can, I mean, if you don't like the field or if you don't like the professor that you are working with, you still have time to switch it. But when you go for a PhD, it's getting very harder to change your professor, to change your PI, I mean, principal investigator. So it's getting harder when you go higher. So that's why it's a, I mean, great idea to start when an undergraduate.
do you believe? Probably a quick question, right? Do you believe that having having your permanent residency here plays bigger role versus like being international student, where you come with F1 visa, and or is it? I know it's probably an obstacle in terms of maintaining your visa and stuff like that, but in terms of how about getting like scholarships, being able to get some awards? What is your perfect thoughts?
I mean, there are some government scholarships, especially from in my field in cellular biology, molecular biology. We belong to National Institute of Health, NIH. So some of the NIH fellowships or programs, they require green card holder or a citizen. But these are very like they are lower. Or if you apply for like a grant from military, or if you apply for some government fellowships, it is more limited. But on the other hand, there are like hundreds of opportunities you can apply as an immigrant visa, like F1 visa or J1 visa. But I mean, having a PhD in the United States is a reason or is enough for you to get a green card after you graduate. Unfortunately, most of my colleagues are not aware of this. They say, I mean, I need to finish my PhD with F1, and then I need to go for OPT, then go for J1, and then, so like you feel yourself like you always belong to a visa. That's not true. I mean, as soon as you finish your PhD, even before you graduate from PhD, you can apply for green card here as like for national interest waiver, NIW, and then you can get your green card before you graduate or as you graduate. And both you and if you are married, your wife, your kids, they all will take advantage of this. And this is a great opportunity that the United States is offering. But we just need to take the steps to do that.
So all the immigrants listening here at once, go to PhD, get your PhD, right?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it is one of the fastest way to get your green card.
So let me ask you specifically about that, just to clarify, right? So I mean, you said national interest waiver, right? Is it the name?
Yes.
I mean, so it's a category. I personally, I've done it myself through the employment. It's different route, but does it have to be like? Do you have to work with the governmental kind of agencies really, or can it be just non-private as well?
No, I mean, you don't have to work you don't have to work in a government or university job to get that one. I mean, during your PhD, if you can show, like if you have publications, 1 or 2 publications in the field, again, the key is the reference letters. So like, let's say in molecular biology, where do I publish my, articles? I go to molecular genetics or human genetics or Cell, these kind of journals. So if I can get a letter from the journal that I write that this paper is very important and this person who wrote this paper has contributed a lot to the field, this is by itself is enough, I mean, to get me approved. But you need to get like 3 to 5, even more sometimes, reference letters. I personally applied by myself. I didn't go to an attorney. You can do self nomination or self-application. You can do that. So you don't need to be an attorney, or you don't need to you don't need a lot of law school or those kind of things. You can apply yourself. Or on the other hand, there are there are different websites they offer. I don't want to give their names right now, but you can easily find get green card after PhD or during PhD. You can just find their names. They charge 3,000 to 5,000, but sometimes 6,000. Does it worth? Yes. I mean, in the long term, it works. Can you do it by yourself? Yes, you can save that money, but you need to put a lot of time to write the reference letters, to write the statement of purpose, but you still can do that.
Yeah, I want to chime in a little bit as someone who has gone through similar processes. So unfortunately, a lot of this, a lot of regulations of USCIS immigration agency here, it can be dependent on the administration that you talk about. Trump administration has made a lot of things a lot more difficult. So
That's true.
and the requirements for NIW, National Interest Waiver, they basically expect you to be an outside, like an outlier in your field. You have to be really the top, and they can, you know, it's one of those things. It's, you know, it's related to politics, the way different administrations deal with immigration, but it is certainly a possible path.
And again, at this point, I just want to add one thing. This is how you sell yourself. This is how you market yourself. So if you can market yourself as an outlier or as an outstanding person, you still can get it without lying. You still can show yourself that you are above and beyond in your field by writing your narration and by getting those reference letters. And you need to have support of your advisor. This is very important. Yeah? Your advisor should support you, and that support letter really helps. And I personally wrote all the reference letters for my references. They edited them and then they submitted them. This is a hard work, but you can always find samples for this online.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I actually wanted, you just touched on a very important subject, I think. Again, as someone with some experience, I think that's a very critical point. You mentioned your advisor support. So yes, whether you do your research or internship during your undergraduate, or you go for master's with a thesis, let's say you have an advisor there, PhD, you have an advisor there. What I've seen personally, and please correct me if I'm wrong, who your advisor is, how you know, how well you create this relationship, you know, what kind of, if your relationship is healthy or not, is very critical how things go. I was curious, what are your thoughts about choosing the right person to work with? How do you know which advisor is going to be supportive in the future? Let's say, you know, we're talking about academia, but a lot of our viewers probably are thinking about, well, getting masters or bachelors and getting a nice paying job without going into academia. So how do you make that distinction that this professor, this advisor is actually going to be good for me?
I mean, there is, I think there are two things here. One of them is advisor, the other one is mentor. So, I mean, they do help both ways, but I would recommend to have a mentor and advisor separately. But it can be the same person if the person is very close to you and really caring about you. But a mentor can help you when your advisor fails, or an advisor can help you when your mentor doesn't help. So these are two different things. Mentor is the person who doesn't give you, you know, the direction to do which research, but the mentor tells you, you need to do this step now. Okay, you are getting closer to your finishing your PhD. You should better prepare this way or that way. But the advisor will tell you which research you're going to do and then what kind of publications you can do. They're a little bit different. Again, they can be the same person or separate. But to choose an advisor is very critical. In my field, again, I will talk about my field, but my advisor was an assistant professor when I started with him, and he was very enthusiastic about research. And with his enthusiasm, I was able to, you know, do this research as he was doing. So we kind of grow together. So I grew to finish my PhD, and he grew to, you know, to get his associate professorship, his tenure. So it kind of win-win in both situations. And then, but on the other hand, his network was not as wide as a full professor. Or you know, like he was not that kind of, he didn't have that many PhD students to raise. So there were some areas that we could correct later. But if I got the better advice, I could do better. It's the other thing. But on the other hand, if you go with a full professor, and especially a famous professor, it has goods and bads. I mean, the pros with a good full professor and a famous one is like you have a big network. You will be opening to a big network, and then you can make your own network out of his or her network. On the other hand, I mean, your professor will be very busy with the conferences, with talks, with research. So you may be a kind of trying to do most of those things by yourself. So again, these are the pros and cons. You really need to evaluate during the PhD. And again, changing an advisor during PhD is very difficult. That's why you always choose to get the advice of rotation. So in my PhD program, I had 3 rotations, and I went through 3 different research, 3 different professors, 3 different levels. Actually, one of them was full, the other one is associate, the other one is assistant. So I was able to see how their performances are. Again, I was young, I cannot evaluate them, but I had a chance to see how each research environment looks. And then at the end, I decided to continue with the field that I liked the most, which was gene therapy. And I learned about the viruses, the viral gene therapy. And then, and he was an assistant professor. When I tried to work with a full professor, I was kind of at the end of the line. So, and he had the postdocs, he had so many other people. So you are not getting the same attention as you are getting a smaller lab. But again, being in a big lab is advantageous because you have more network and like kind of you are in a better race. Again, you need to just weigh them, pros and cons, and it's highly dependent on your field. So in business field, maybe you need a much bigger network.
So maybe a question about so probably like a tip maybe for those that are doing just starting their higher education, like let's say they're doing associate degree or they're doing like bachelor's degree. For those, how do you decide what is a lucrative, in your given discipline, right? Whether if it's economics, business, electrical engineering, chemical engineering, biological, how do you decide this is going to be the one, that hot area that I'm going to be great, 5 years from now, once I'm done with my master's and PhD, how do you make that decision at that level as you study?
It's a very good question. I mean, the first thing that I would say is closely follow the developments in your field with the academic articles. So again, in my field, PubMed is the database for all these articles that have been published, and I was subscribed to it. I was getting, all the new publications in my field. That's one thing. Other thing is that like reading the popular science magazines, it is also very helpful because in that one, people don't write scientific articles, but they just kind of give an idea to the people where the science is going. So you need to watch the kind of news, the scientific news, and also the Nobel. Who are the Nobel Prize are being given? Because Nobel Prizes are like evaluated in a way that it's kind of more being open for the future. So I would recommend to go to those fields. And on the other hand, sometimes you expect something will grow. For example, again, in my field in gene therapy, when I was studying gene therapy back in 2004, 2005, there was a halt on the human trials because a person was died in 1999 in a clinical trial, and they stopped all the human clinical trials until 2010 or 11. So at my time, gene therapy was highly promising, but we could not do any human trials. And then it started again. Now gene therapy is the most expensive medication in the world. I mean, one shot of gene therapy is $500,000. So you get one shot, and it is the most expensive thing, $500,000. Another one is 2.5. I forgot the name, or
it's
something.
Even
like
more,
that.
yeah. I'm in pharmaceutical industry. I can attest to that. We in the upstream, I'm in the upstream drug development of biologics. So basically, you can imagine a huge reactor of, let's say, several thousand liters, and the whole DS, drug substance material that comes out of it, is for one patient. So imagine how much money it would cost. So yeah, it is.
That's why it's that expensive, right? That's why
millions of dollars. Yeah.
But at my time, we could not do those things because at my time we can only do. I mean, I studied fetal gene therapy, so we were trying to change the genes during pregnancy in a sheep model, not like a live human. Like the sheep model, it was very highly promising because you can correct a genetic disorder before birth, so that the baby will be born with a fixed gene and there will be no side effects and no developmental problems. You will not try to change it later. So it was highly promising. But the problem was there are risks as well. And then we could not go into the human trials because of the precautions being taken. But now, if I go back to gene therapy, again, I would be a kind of a very, very promising field again.
Just as a side note, what kind of what kind of diseases are they fixing right now with the gene therapies, like common ones?
I mean, I think Anwar should answer.
So, Baron, there's only, as far as I know, one therapy that's been approved for sure for a very rare ocular disease. eye disease. There's a lot of studies, a lot of money going into it, but approval of drugs can take up to 10 years, 15 years. So it's a hot subject, but the results we'll know after 5-6 years, probably.
Wow.
But there are very
There aren't that
promising
many
ones.
drugs out there. I really like that question, Baron. Thank you for asking, and thank you, Dr. Ozturk, to pointing that out, because I've seen from my experience too, a lot of people, you're passionate about a specific field, and I'm just throwing it out there. Let's say paleontology. You love dinosaurs. As a kid, you love dinosaurs. You go do your master's about dinosaurs, PhD, and then you come to a certain age where you want to establish your life, and then you realize there aren't that many jobs, and even the ones that are available, they will pay very little as compared to the amount of time that you invested, amount of work. So I think what Dr. Ozturk is pointing out is that you have to be aware of different opportunities and make your choice, in an informed way. I think that's very good. May I add one more suggestion to that? I think from what
You
I've
also have a
seen,
PhD, so
what you can do, let's say you're going for masters in biomedical field with a certain professor. A lot of professors have websites with their former members also listed. So a good way of, I thought it was a good way, look at the number of people and where they end up after that lab. Some people, some labs, some professors, all of these students are in pharmaceutical industry. Okay, that gives you an idea that you get a better chance. From another professor, most of them are professors. They go to academia, then you realize, okay, this lab is producing a lot of professors. So that's another way of looking at it.
that's very true. Yeah.
That's great. Probably my last, last question before we're taking a lot of your time, so we want to make sure that we stay within our budget. No, we didn't pay him, but we still, stay within the budget.
As I told you, I talk a lot, so just.
No. That's great. Probably on a personal note. I mean, before this conversation we had, you mentioned that you've been working with with your students, in high school. You're a science teacher there, so. I mean, the inspiring part that for me was personal. Like, well, at that age already, kids, what they want to become. They're so interested about this, right? So, what can you say about about those kids that don't go to those kind of high schools, right? For example, they don't go to those high schools, but at the same time, they have the passion, like Anwar was saying, become like astronaut, or become a chemical engineer, become something, right? So what is something that you could suggest for them? For example, I'm a parent. My child is not that age of high school, but of course, soon enough it's going to be that age. Before I know it. So what would you suggest parents to what they should keep in mind in terms of making sure that these guys properly nurtured? They're given enough information, they're given enough knowledge, and they give enough like everything that they need to make sure that these kids succeed.
I mean, in those cases, I would recommend both the parents and the students. First of all, they need to find what their enthusiasm is about, like what their dream job. I mean, there's a dream job and a real job as well. But so what do you really want to do in the future? How do they would like to contribute to the society or contribute to, where they live? So a lot of the universities, they have outreach programs for the high school students. So if you go to the university's website, let's say in my university, UTSA. So if you're at UTSA high school program, you're going to find out exactly their website and how they approach. So they have a high school program for engineering. They have a high school program for biomedical science. They have a high school program for economics or math. So because the students also, I mean, the universities also would like to reach to the successful students, I mean, to the promising students. So for them, they open summer programs. Okay. So the student can go to the summer program at the university. I mean, some students, they choose to work in, at Burger King or, and in a grocery store for summer to earn their money for the next, but if this is not a wise investment, the wise investment is that you need to go to your field. You may earn a little bit less than working in a grocery store or a restaurant, but at the end, your investment will be something that will make more value when you get closer to the college or when you get closer to the PhD programs. So make sure that, those parents and students really look into those outreach programs of the universities. And again, fields can change. And this will also give them a taste. Like for example, student goes to the business summer program for the business, promising business students, and he or she doesn't like business. I mean, okay, next year I'm going to go to a different one.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of, you try different instruments to play, and then you choose one of them and you just go with that. And the same thing for this. I mean, just go for summer schools or summer programs or the high schools, and this will help. And you can even start as early as in the freshman year of the high school. There are a lot of cyber security programs now that are for high school students. And again, they are in different fields like biomedical or business or economics or physics. So they just need to follow their passion to find out. And there are very good websites who can help you to decide what your passion is.
Okay.
Because sometimes the kids, I mean, they are kids, they don't know, they don't have the full decision what they will do in the future,
right,
unless they take the class or unless they go like exposed to this kind of a research field. So there are some, like for example, one of them is high five. So it gives you an idea about what your interest and skills and and based on your values. So it will help you to identify yourself or the student, and then it will be a more informed decision for the parent and the kid, and the child, to go to the field for the summer programs.
That's great.
It seems
that's
like
great.
the advice is just start doing instead of like thinking, should I do that? Should I do that? Just start.
Yeah, it's a good note for parents, right? I mean, good notes for parents. It's important that your kid does well, so it's great. So thank you so much for your for that.
I actually have one more question, if that's okay. We'll try to keep it short, but I'm sorry.
Please.
I was wondering, Dr. Ozturk, you have a very interesting history. You can elaborate more on your personal journey, going back to Turkey and then having to come back here. A lot of things can happen in life, things that are out of your control, and academic path, be it just college, even college, master's, or if you choose to PhD, it's a very challenging path. How do you keep yourself motivated? How should I or my kids, how should I teach them to keep themselves motivated and move on? Because it is a challenging path.
Yeah, I mean, as all we know, I mean, life happens. So sometimes the life throws you lemons and you need to make lemonade out of it. So to make a sweet out of it. So yes, in my time and in my life, I have very challenging years, especially up to 2016. I mean, when the political turmoil happened in Turkey. So I ended up leaving the country, I mean, not well prepared. So I ended up just coming to the United States and to establish my new life here. So I could not start right away for the academic program. I mean, when I came here, I worked at Jimmy John's. I worked as an Uber driver. I worked as, like a car, selling ornaments, Christmas ornaments in, in a mall. So these kind of jobs I did. But at the same time, I brought my computer with me to the mall. And when there are no customers, I was just applying jobs in the academia and in the pharmaceutical company. So I never gave up, although the things out of my control or the things that I could not control happened to me, and it changed my life. I mean, it made me to go down all the way deep, but it doesn't mean that I have to give up. So I just returned my passion of research and in academia. I said, okay, I will do this no matter what happens. And these are times that will pass soon. So, and I keep my focus in my field again. And no matter the conditions are, I kept applying, and eventually I was offered a job at the university. And then after the university, I had some family issues that I need to resolve. So I kind of, again, gave a pause for applications to the university because I was kind of limited to apply only in one state to resolve my family issues. But then I said, okay, I'm not going to give up teaching. So because teaching is my passion, I found out. And then I said, okay, I'll go to high school and I'll teach biomedical science. I mean, first I was hired as a science teacher, and it was very challenging for me. But then I requested them if I can teach the high schools in the biomedical field, and the school was very positive about this. And then based on my background and field, so right now I'm teaching on the biomedical science, and the students who are interested in the biomedical field, like most of my kids, they are planning to go to the medical or they are going to dentistry or pharmaceuticals or veterinary. So those kids are already kind of chose their path. And it really gives me, and they acknowledge my teaching, and it really gives me the enthusiasm to continue in the teaching field. So I didn't lose anything, in my opinion. I'm still doing my research, I'm still doing my teaching. Yes, I changed my career path, but I'm still doing what I like the most. So this is the most important part. I mean, no matter what happens to you, always keep your focus on what you like the most, and the life eventually will revolve and change into the field.
So whenever you guys eating or drinking tea with lemon, remember that what Dr. Ozturk said. Make lemonade from that lemon. Just don't drink it.
But you can make lemonade.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ozturk. We appreciate your time. All right, go ahead.
Well, I think that's about it. We've really taken advantage of Dr. Ozturk's time. I think it was very informative, and motivational. I think we ended with a very positive note that, if it's what you want to do, things will work out eventually. So
I think this was everybody had their own pieces, like for those people who are just starting, there was some advice for the parents, who are watching, there was advice. For those people who are doing masters and PhD, actually, there was advice how to continue, keep it going. So that was very great and informative. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ozturk. Really
it's my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And dear viewers, subscribers, please do subscribe, comment, let us know what you want us to talk about in future episodes.
Yeah, and send us email at immigrantbazaar@gmail.com. So we get some emails with suggestions. Please keep those going. And for those who are listening to podcasts as well, please listen to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Immigrant Bazaar, that's how you search. So thank you, everybody. Again, thank you, Dr. Ozturk, and good to see you all. Thank you so much.